It's not here. We're not going to block him if I just move a little bit more and more level. We'll sit here a little while longer. It'll be interesting if it is one of those days when things can change suddenly, because there can be something coming to the water, perhaps. Something wandering here. Possibly buffalo coming in. Pretty heavy cloud rolling in towards the south, but it's coming from the east. And our eastern sky is fairly light. Aha. The lion's nemesis. Of course, the alarm calls of the squirrel will be noted by other animals in the area. That might not stop them from coming to the water. They might not know where the squirrel is seeing something. And also, just listening to it, you can hear it changing in intensity sometimes. Yes, much better now, thanks. Still only about 3 out of 5, but I got you. Please repeat. Interesting news from Nikki about a bit of a conversation going on Twitter, #Safari Live, about the squirrel, because it has been going non-stop, wondering if he's ever going to lose his voice. Well, not really. Look at that. Now, looking at his canines, if we can get a good look, they are not very on his left canine. It's still a pretty sharp canine. You know, after 10 years or so, lions tend to start, the canines tend to start getting a little bit blunt. And his incisors were still looking fairly good, so he's not any older years. I mean, let's put it this way: it's not declining rapidly like an old lion would. So, difficult answer to a question from Mary, because it's not there isn't a one-off answer to it. Mary wants to know what is the sort of time span of dominance for a coalition of males. Generally, it's anywhere from maybe 3 to 5 years, maximum 5, but it's normally only about 3 or 4 years. But a lot of it is dependent on the density of the lion population. You see, every area in Africa, in fact even every area here in the relatively small reserve of the Sabi Sand. And Sabi Sand, we're talking about maybe about 130 to 150,000 acres of the Sabi Sand, although it's open to Kruger, it's all part of Kruger. It is still diverse enough that what happens with lion in this part of the Sabi Sand, it could be different further south. There are different densities. And then you look at the whole of Kruger, which are millions and millions of acres of Kruger, and all the lion that live in Kruger. You'll have a different dynamic throughout Kruger, and then you look at an area like the Kalahari where lion is so much more spread out. They have much bigger territories. There are different survival criteria. And in the Okavango Delta, where it's the opposite of the Kalahari Desert, it's a water wonderland. There are different dynamics there. So to give you a simple answer, it wouldn't hold for other lion in any other area. And so it's more a case of observing individuals and maybe over time creating some sort of database of how long different coalitions have ruled a territory, and being able to then get a mean, get an average. And I think you'd probably find it's probably about 3 or 4 years. I like the way he does a little bit of an Elvis thing with his upper lip. Okay, I think maybe I should move for you, Wiem, because we've got his little grasses in his face. While we've got a chance to be able to view them like this, try and get a really nice, now that his brother has moved, I'm going to swing you around to the other side maybe, see if we can't get a really nice clear view of his face, unobstructed. Oops. Okay, Squirrel, I got this. Yeah, I got this. You can take a break now. That's much better. They've just picked up the female pride from these two boys, the Nkuhumas, a little bit north of us. Lex, where's 3 in a row in relation to Buffelshoek Dam? Alright, thanks. Yeah, 3 in a row pan is very far away, so if they were to be calling, possible that the Nkuhumas could hear them, but not that close that they're going to reunite at any time today, maybe tonight. Yeah, the squirrel's tiring a little bit. Morning, Liv. Liv in Brooklyn. Nice to hear from Liv in Brooklyn. Will these 2 males stay together for the rest of their lives? It's possible, Liv. It's not a certainty. But it's likely. With the way coalitions have been working here, you find that there's sometimes coalitions of 5, 6 males that come in, and with just the 2 of them, as they get older, obviously their ability to defend themselves and their territory becomes more and more diminished with age, and I guess it's possible that one of them will get lost to a fight before it becomes sort of possible, not likely, but it's possible that what will separate them will be a fight where one of them will either get so badly injured or one of them could get killed. And if that happens and that leaves just one male on his own, he's not going to be able to hold he's not going to be able to hold his own against anything, so he will then become probably just an old nomadic male that has to avoid other males in his waning years. Or Or if they get ousted as a pair, they could spend the rest of their days, the last few years, wandering around as old boys. Very difficult to predict what would happen when it comes to nature. Very difficult to know what will happen. And one of the reasons why we just love watching things, because we get answers all the time. And what you find with maybe one set of circumstances, you might never find that happening again. So you can never say that when you are observing something that it goes for all other animals, or all other animals of the same species, that all others will do the same thing. Go ahead. How long do I think these boys have before being kicked out by another coalition? Well, there, you see, that's a perfect question for that answer, Tom. Tom's in the Falklands. Nice to hear from the Falkland Islands. Nice to know that we have a connection, albeit through technology, to a group of islands down south. They could be ousted tomorrow, Tom. There could be a coalition that moves in here, 3, 4, 5 or 6 younger males, stronger males maybe, that might come in and oust them tomorrow. Or it could be another 2 years before they are ousted, before that could happen. We have seen them mating with the Nkuhumas over the last a couple of months, and we're hoping that is going to result in some fruition. It's going to produce some cubs, and it would be good if they could hold their territory for at least another 2 years. If they are siring more cubs now with these Nkuhumas, they would need to hold this territory for at least another 3 years, 2 to 3 years, to be able to make sure that those cubs, their progeny, survive. Any other males coming in would kill new cubs, or cubs belonging to other males, so that they can sire their own. It's one way of ensuring the dominance in the gene pool that's constantly breeding with the females and bringing new genes into the pride. But it's another reason to be spending every day out here trying to find them, trying to keep up with their lives. Is one of the most wonderful things we have about being able to bring you to this part of the Greater Kruger National Park, to Djuma Game Reserve every day, as opposed to when you're visiting a place like Africa. You come and visit and you get to see these animals on safari, but then when you leave a place, you never know what happens to the lives of those animals. And if you come on safari here at Djuma or neighbouring lodges like Arathusa, you're able to see the animals that we can show you every day, but when you go home, you're actually able to follow their lives through us, hopefully for as long as we can. I know that we're not going to be here forever, but we do get to see a longer glimpse of their lives over a greater period of time than one would normally see if you were just visiting Africa for a shorter safari. So I suppose one of the benefits of being able to read tracks, what we do as presenters, the three of us, and you'll be meeting someone new very soon, and who's going to be joining us tonight at Fireside Chat. Keep you guessing for a little while, but part of what we love doing is reading the news in the road every morning to see which cats or which hyena, who's been moving around, where the elephants have gone, which direction the buffaloes have been, which leopards are moving around. When we drive around on our boundary roads, we can see which animals have come into Djuma overnight and which animals might have left Djuma overnight. and in times that we are lucky enough to witness when they are on our traversing area. That's why we hope you become regular viewers. We hope you get as hooked on these cats and other animals as many other people have and have watched us over the years. Let's see it. He's getting a little bit... I think it's winding down. It's a wind-up toy that's reaching the end of its coil. Until the cat moves, I bet you if one of them got up and moved, it'll be like the squirrel suddenly got wound up again. Oh, question from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Liz wants to know if these two males are part of that pride of 13 we saw the other day, 2 days ago. I just heard some parrots fly. You can hear the squeak of the parrots. And they've flown over. No, Liz, these two boys don't go down that way because there are males there. They're a little bit... That is southwest of us, where that pride is. That's the Talala Breakaway Pride, and those lion have other boys that look after them, or that are the fathers of those 9 youngsters. As far as I know, they're the Birmingham boys that live down there, and there is also further west, when the Birminghams are not around, the Majingi lions come in from the west. There were some Majingi lions on Arathusa the day before yesterday, but they were just not on the area where that we traversed. They were on an area where we don't have access to. And they didn't come quite as far east as we were with the lions on the water at Arathusa. So these boys wouldn't go that far. There would be quite a commotion. Plus they've got a hard enough time looking after their own pride up here and on Buffelshoek. There's the Nkumas. I think there's probably others that don't ever come here. Just trying to think. There's that other group called the... Come help me out, someone, viewer. Questions at Safari. Questions at wildearth.tv. Hashtag Safari Live. No, the Birmingham's, no, not to Birmingham. I'm thinking of another pride of females from up north that don't really ever come onto Juma from Buffelshoek. I know they're the Salatis. The Birmingham have sisters in Manyaleti. The Salatis are in Manyaleti. Why, Len or Glenn in Florida, why do lions form prides? A leopard... Jen, sorry, not Glenn, Jennifer. Why do lions form prides but cheetah and leopard don't? I think primarily because of the fact that lion became more plains hunters, and it was far more beneficial to join forces out on the plains to hunt larger prey than it was to be solitary hunting smaller prey, because hunting strategies out on the more open plains required a different hunting strategy to what, say, a leopard needs. Now, cheetah, on the other hand, do sort of form loose coalitions and loose groups. Not really. You'll find cheetah with their cubs, and you'll find boys that stay together, and sub-adults that'll stay together and they'll hunt together. But ultimately, as adults, they tend to move on along on their own. But they've sacrificed strength. They've sacrificed all that muscle for the speed with which they hunt, with that lion's body and the very long legs. That it doesn't really do them any good to hunt large prey. They need to hunt things that they can bring down quickly, eat quickly, and move on. And somehow the way lion have worked over time is that it became more beneficial. It became as a survival thing. I think if we look at the adaptation of lion to their habitat, we can see when lion are born how they have spots and rosettes very similar to leopards. So I think at one time there must have been a type of habitat that wasn't conducive to open grassland and things, and that maybe over time that developed, and then the animals had to move into that niche and create a different type of society or a different behavior for themselves. Not create, but adapt to a different way of living, a way of hunting, a way of feeding. And by not living in the thicket and the bush that they used to, they no longer needed the spots and rosettes, so it kind of faded over time to become this more uniform tan, tawny, beige lion color for out in the grassland. And being large cats, being able to hunt cooperatively, giving them the opportunity to bring down larger animals, which increases the amount of intake of meat per individual, which improves the chances of survival. So it was probably a combination of survival tactics and changes in habitat that required changes in behavior and social structure. Starting to get some pretty low and heavy cloud moving in from the south. Squirrel decided to just chirp up again because a fork-tailed drongo arrived in another tree, and the fork-tailed drongo is also making a little bit of a noise. So the squirrel's just reaffirming its vehemence, reaffirming its displeasure, and having cats in its territory. He's going to start snoring soon. Heavy breathing helps Well, I suppose it's a combination of having a very full tummy pushing on his diaphragm, and I suppose helps with the discomfort of having such a bloated stomach. I mean, he's really overindulged, this boy, like a king. I don't feel so bad now when I look at his tummy, but I know he's going to have a thinner tummy in a day than I am. Ooh, give us a roar. Shanae from Pretoria. How long does a full belly like this take to digest? Well, if he's not going to eat again for a couple of days, then it'll be, I'd say, 2 to 3 days. You will notice, within 2 to 3 days, we'll notice a marked difference. But he'll be able to, if he had to, if they weren't hunting, he'd be able to survive on this full belly for up to a week or more, as long as he has water. Drongo. Go ahead, Lex. Sorry, I was on the other radio. Negative. I'm still at Buffelshoek Dam. Doug, I think it was, asking if I ever known, or has it ever been documented, of lion being ousted from a pride and then being able to take over another pride and then being able to assert dominance elsewhere. I have to be honest, I haven't ever heard of that. Mostly because of the age. I don't know, maybe if I had to think about it, Doug, offhand I can't think of it. I'd like to look into records to see if maybe it has been documented. But you see, there's a very short period in time during an adult male lion's life that he can hold a territory. So I suppose if a lion is ousted young enough, before he's managed to even sire any cubs, there's still a little bit of time left on his clock for him to be able to do so, if he's strong enough and able to dominate over another pride male. So I think largely it'll depend on how old he is when he gets ousted. I think sort of later on in life, like these boys, if they get ousted now, I don't know what their chances would be being maybe 8, 10 years old. There's still maybe a few years left in them, so there's a very good chance that maybe they could. I suppose if we had to look at it from the point of view of here, if we have to think of the lions that we've had here in the Sabi Sand, when I got here, the Mapojos were here. They were pretty dominant up here, so I suppose it has been documented. Mapojos were here. They were ousted by the Matinga lions. The Matinga lions took over here, and they sired cubs here, but then they were ousted and pushed off further south and west. So I suppose the constant turnover here is different to anywhere else that I've ever known in terms of coalitions and frequency of coalitions. So I think under those circumstances, yes. Back home, I don't think I've ever heard of it happening back home in the Timbavati, and the lion that I've studied up in East Africa haven't ever done that, because the dynamics are so different. So I think where a population allows it, it is possible. If we think of what's been going on here at Djuma and the male coalitions that have been dominant here at Djuma and have subsequently been pushed off and have had to resettle elsewhere in the Sabi Sand, and they've done so because they were ousted or they were moved on at a young enough age for them to be able to still sire cubs and maintain that dominance while those cubs are growing and getting to an age where they're no longer under threat from other males coming in. But it's very grey now. I'm thinking that we ought to carry on driving for the last little bit of our drive. I'm hoping that these boys are going to stay here for this afternoon's drive. There's a good chance that they will. If there are elephant or buffalo that are going to come down this little alley to the water, they will move off, no doubt. They're not likely to move very far, especially this one with a big full belly. Probably stick around the water for a while, and I'm hoping that they will still be here this afternoon. I'm not foreseeing any change in activity in the next 20 or so, 30 minutes. So I'd like to, let's go and see what else we can find. We'll take a little bit more of a drive for the time that we have left. Go to bed, Squirrel. Good night, boys. Thank you for your company. Bye-bye, little squirrel. Good luck with your endeavors to attract the attention of other allies to come and fight the lion. Bye-bye, boys. It's okay, you don't have to get up. No, not on our account. No need to even lift your head. I quite understand when you have that kind of a status in